Hello, hello. Hey, Facebook Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to get online. Let Facebook do its thing and let you guys know that I am on live. Hope everybody has had a wonderful Wednesday. When you come in, please say hello. Let me know you're here. It is a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. I've had a wonderful day today, y'all. Excuse me for being a couple of minutes late. We got some new Android boxes and Wi-Fi hookups and all of that stuff. So we wanted to make sure that everything was connected right so I wouldn't be knocked offline during this feed. Hey, Detricia, how you doing? Everybody say hi when you come in. Hey, Salathia, how you doing? Okay. You say you can't hear because you're in Bible study. You could catch up later. Hey, Katrina, how you doing, sis? So say hi when you come in the room, guys. We're going to get right into it this evening. I know you guys saw my post earlier today. And I started getting inboxes. I started getting text messages. You guys were like, oh, you speaking my language now. So we are going to talk about blending families. Because it's a really sensitive issue for everyone. So we're going to get right into it. Detricia, you say you saw me at the wedding, but you were too far away. I wish you'd have let me know so I could give you a big hug and we could have got us a picture together. Okay, so welcome everybody. I wanted to give you guys time to get on, but I see you guys are coming in. And so as you guys come in, just say hello and then we'll move on. For those of you, if you have never been on one of my lives before, if you were told about the lives that I've been doing here recently, or if you are returning, once again, I am Montisa Hughes, and I have been given these heavenly downloads from God. God told me to speak specifically to people who were struggling in their marriages. Now, I realize that I have been quite transparent, opening the doors and peeling back the layers of my own marriage. And the reason that I have absolutely no problem with doing that, and the reason that my husband has no problem with doing that, is because we know the word of God tells us that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So we are overcomers, and by us overcoming and sharing our situation with you guys, you too become overcomers. So as you guys are coming in, hey Ayana, I'm just going to keep rolling on. But like I said, I want you guys to talk with me because I've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of requests, things of that nature where you guys really want to talk about this subject. Hey, LaDonna, how you doing? And how's that sweet baby doing? So like I said, being transparent is not a problem for us. Now, some of you may know that I am the founder of the Take Your Body Back fitness community. And the reason why that is so significant to what I've been doing here recently with being transparent about my marriage is because I lead this group, or I coach this group of phenomenal warrior women who have entered into the group to do many things, whether it's to lose weight, whether it is to reverse the diagnosis and the prognosis that they've been given on their health conditions. Some of them, I've seen them get healed from and be taken off of medications that they were told that they were going to have to be on for the rest of their lives, and or it's been lowered down, and the chances are that they too will be taken off of their medications. They've been healed from, high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels, all of those things. So, as God has been moving mightily, one of the things that is so significant with that community is when you are working to transform your body, it takes a toll on everything. It spills over into every area of your life. And the only way that you could transform your body is if your mind, if your spirit, all of that is also affected. And so I have also had the honor of talking to women who have experienced problems in their marriages, and I've seen as they have really delved into working on themselves from the inside out and taking their bodies back, their marriages have been enhanced. And then as a minister, I also have talked to and counseled many people who go through different situations and turbulences as it relates to marriage, and some of them just really want to throw in the towel, so forth and so on. And so God really showed me how the things that I have gone through in my marriage, how they don't need to just always be talked about in a private setting, but there are people who are publicly, dealing with situations, or should I say that I should talk publicly to everyone, to the masses, as much as I possibly can. So he's given me this mantle, and I am using this platform to speak to those of you who are either facing some issues and you want to give up, or you just want to be better equipped to have a powerful, long-lasting marriage. And so tonight is no different than any other night. I'm just peeling back another layer to talk with you guys about a very sensitive issue, and that's blending families. When you get married, that can be probably one of the hardest things that you have to do. You don't necessarily consider it when you're getting married because, of course, the sky is blue and the roses smell wonderful and everything is just beautiful, and you're getting married, and it's just going to be you and that person, and y'all going to sail off into the sunset and everything will be fine. And you don't take into consideration how those who you are connected to may also be affected. And so that's why God wanted me to come on and speak about this subject this evening. I have also gotten questions from women and men alike. Now, here's the thing. I get questions from women they ask questions like, what do you do when your husband has a child or children from a previous relationship or relationships, and you have to deal with the mother who is using the child to get back at your husband? What do you do in that situation? I've gotten questions from men who ask, what if you have a wife who had children from a previous relationship, and a child or children from a previous relationship, and she will not allow you to be involved in disciplining those children, especially the boys, and they're under my roof. That's what the man is saying. Like they're in my home, under my roof, and she has a problem with me disciplining those children from another man. So those are some of the questions that I deal with, and I just really wish that someone had sat down and explained the things to me that I'm going to talk about this evening, because your marriage doesn't have to suffer. You don't have to have dissension and discord in your house about something that's happening across town in somebody else's home, or sometimes even in another state. I mean, and those of you who are experiencing this and you feel like the only thing that you can do is to throw in the towel and go a different way, listen, that's the trick of the enemy, okay? I have to let you know that what the enemy and what the world wants you to do, they tell you you always need to just, take the road of, least resistance, right? But God is saying, I want you to take the road that's least traveled, or that's less traveled. Because God knows that down that path, that's the path where you're going to have to depend on him. If you're going down the road of least resistance, that's because you feel like, okay, I won't run into any hard stops. But listen, I don't know, what you may be thinking about when you enter into marriage, but I promise you, in marriage, when you stand before God and those witnesses and you exchange those vows, you're going to have to walk it out. You're going to have some good times. You're going to have some bad times. You're going to have some ups, some downs. There will probably be some for richer or for poorer. There will be some sickness and in health. You're going to go through a lot of things. And when you say that you'll stick it out till death, well, God is going to put you to the test. You're going to have to walk that thing out. So this could be a situation where you're going through it and you want to throw in the towel, or you want to definitely go down a different path so you don't have to deal with, or you don't want to face this. But God is saying, lean not to your own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge me, and I will direct your path. Stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to feel like you got to put your hands on everything and handle it. He will handle it. So let me just tell you my story, okay? When I got married to my husband, when I met my husband, he had a daughter, and she was 4 years old. And I'll tell you, one of the things that made me really grow to love my husband was the way that he loved his daughter. Okay. There was never a function or any kind of event or anything that was going on and he missed it. He was there for everything. I specifically remember how when we first got together, now remember I told you our courtship was very short lived. He proposed in 4 months of us meeting one another. But in the year's time that we spent before we married, I remember that Christmas, because we met in September. So Christmas, this is what he would do, that what he did that Christmas, and what I came to know that he had done the Christmases prior to, as she was growing those first 3 to 4 years. He every Christmas morning, he would get up before daybreak and go to his daughter's mother's home, so that when his daughter woke up and she came downstairs to all of the beautiful gifts that she had, she also came downstairs to a mother and a father. So though they were not together, the one thing that he was very adamant about is making sure that he was always present for her. And I thought that that was such a wonderful thing. It didn't matter if he had just gotten off work, because sometimes he would work like a shift that when he got off, or or he only had like a short amount of time to sleep, but he made sure that he got there, because sometimes he would even have to work on the holidays. So he was always there. And those are the things that I came to love about him. If there was something going on at her school, if it was a program, whatever it was, he was always there. Then when we met one another, he wanted to incorporate me in the mix very early on, because like we talked about when we came on live, he knew what he wanted. He knew that his desire was was to marry me. He knew early on. And so he wanted to start incorporating me in the mix. And I can remember the first time I was invited to a Christmas program at our daughter's school. I told him that I didn't want to go. I declined, and I told him I didn't feel like it was the right time. It was just a little early, because at that time I had not had the opportunity to really meet or be introduced to her mother, and that there was a conversation that I guess would need to be had, just kind of saying, this is who I'm interested in. This is the person that's going to be, around our daughter. And I wanted you guys to have the opportunity to meet, you get to know her. And so I declined, at that time. And then, of course, he understood. And shortly after that, the introduction did occur. We went together to pick his daughter up. No, to drop his daughter off, and she came out to the car, and we had the opportunity to meet. We said hello to one another, and that's how that went. They actually had a conversation. He let her know, what his, future desire was, because he knew that he wanted to be around me and have me around their daughter. So these were the things that I grew to love about my husband. I knew that if we moved further and we were going to marry, that if God blessed us with children, he was going to be a phenomenal father, because of how present he was with his daughter at that time. But it's so funny, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but it seems like the thing that you love the most about a person can turn around and be the thing that agitates you the most about a person. So it seemed like that thing that I loved so much turned out to be the thing that kind of antagonized me to some degree, okay? And let me explain why. Because after we got married, right, and I got pregnant just 4 short months after we were married, there was no more we were going to be able to, get up. He was going to be able to get up and leave our home, leave his wife and his, new child, get up and then be going across town to another woman's home to be there with them. No, now it's time for us to begin to create this new dynamic, this new home, where she was going to have a whole nother family. And there were going to be gifts here for her. And there were going to be things for her to have. And she, Christmas was going to be kind of split. Now, there are some families that, everybody does Christmas together, but that wasn't our situation at the time. And so that was a barrier that we kind of had to get over because he was accustomed to doing it a certain way. And I can remember the last Christmas that he did it was after we got married in September. December rolled around and he said that he was, going over. And I didn't have a problem with it because, of course, we had just gotten married. And one of the things that was big for me was to make sure that our daughter never felt like she was separate and apart. That was huge for me because, see, I was a daddy's girl, right? And because I knew he loved on her and she loved her daddy, now for her dad to be married to another woman, and now this woman is pregnant with, a child, I never wanted her to feel like she was outside of. So just before I got pregnant, that last Christmas, he, got up and he said he was going over. And I said, okay. I said, I'll see you when you get back. Because at the time, we didn't have kids. We had just got married. And I didn't want to switch up the dynamics that quickly, on baby girl. So January rolls around. We're pregnant. We have our baby in September. And now we have a child in our home. So at this point, now the discussion has to come like, how are we going to go through the process of making sure that we co-parent in a way that, her mom has her time with her and dad and his new family, her new sibling, and everybody over on this side could also have their time with her. And there was a lot of merging that went along. And I can kind of fast forward through this process for you just to tell you that, we're no different than any other family. We dealt with, the issues of, okay, now it's time for visitation. It wasn't a problem before. Why all of a sudden is it a problem now? Why is it that, okay, we got to switch up times. Now we got to change this. We got to change that. I used to be able, I can actually recall that it had gotten to the point where things seemed to be going well. And I was picking our daughter up independent of my husband. But then there was another shift that took place. And I feel like anytime that my husband and his daughter's mother ended up, bumping heads for whatever reason. I could have been one of the reasons. I don't know. I just know that whatever was happening with that situation ultimately ended up affecting my husband. So whenever it affected my husband, it affected me. If he was upset, I became upset. Because remember now, we're one. So now here I am in the mix, like, because I'm the problem solver and we're going to make sure everything is okay over here on this side, right? So I'm trying to put in, checks and balances and making sure we're doing this and we're doing that. And it was causing friction. And what I didn't realize in the process of trying to make sure that things were set in place, that if I wasn't careful, I would end up causing more of a problem for my husband than there had to be. See, he was already dealing with the frustration of having a child that was outside of the home that he had to co-parent with, his ex with. And then here it is, his wife over here on this side with whom he wants to satisfy has some issues too. And now everybody's like, blowing up. Now, I will say that there are some things that my husband probably should have done early on to make sure that he took care of those situations so that it would never come to a head. But remember, my husband came on and was very transparent and talked about where he was then in terms of his growth versus where he is now. Okay, so us going through, all of those situations, this is what I really want to tell you guys. First of all, for you wives, you should never, ever be arguing with the custodial parent. Okay, I know wives, you're not arguing with the baby mama. Men, you're not arguing with the baby daddy. And I only say that is because I've heard so many of you guys, even in your text messages, even in your inboxing, you have referred to the outside child or children's parents as baby mama or baby daddy. Okay, but the proper term should be the custodial parent. And that's the custodial parent is the one that the child lives with. Because if you all were the custodial parent, then you wouldn't be having these issues anyway, because that child would be living in the home with you, and you wouldn't have to be doing all of the going back and forth and this one and that one. So what I want you wives to know, and men, you can take, eat the meat and spit out the bones, but what I want you guys to know is simply this: a wife should never be arguing with the baby mama if your desires are pure. And your desires ought to always be in the best interest of the child. Always. So you know what you really do, if you really think about it, you're the wife. What are you arguing about? Why are you arguing with your husband's ex about anything? Okay? What you're doing is you're putting more pressure on your husband when you do that. And I understand there are a lot of frustrations. I get it. I understand that you're like, well, it's affecting my house. But I'm getting ready to tell you how you can stop it from affecting your home. Now, granted, there are things that your spouse needs to do in order to set things in place. But what I'm saying is, as it relates to you, there are things that you can do to protect your peace. Okay? To ensure that what's going on in your house is not affected by what's going on in someone else's home. And see, that was my thing. See, I didn't have any children. So when I came into this relationship and marriage with my husband, I was educated. I had, my own career, my own home. I was a homeowner with bedroom, empty rooms that could be filled up with a family. A couple of cars, and to me, I got it going on. So the things that I'm bringing to the table are only going to enhance and, upgrade whomever I'm going to connect with. In my mind, when my husband, at the time, as I'm living life, whomever he is, he's going to be a blessed man, because I'm not bringing anything that's going to bring him down. I'm bringing him only things that's going to elevate him and bring him up and make our relationship better. So I meet my husband, and he has a daughter, a beautiful blessing. I remember early on, I called her my bonus baby. And I didn't even have a child at the time. And when I asked her what a bonus baby meant, I had taught her to respond, I'm your gift. And early on, that was how, we termed it. She was my gift. She was a blessing. Beautiful little girl, right? So when I met him, he has this beautiful girl. But the thing that would agitate me the most as a wife who's bringing just her and giving all of her to him is the fact that he's coming into the relationship with a child from another woman. So what does that mean? His heart is over there too. And whatever is going on with his child and whatever decisions that his child's mother makes that affects the child also affects him. So for me, you got all of me. You got nothing else, and I'm giving you all of me, but I'm affected because it seems like I don't have all of you, because parts of you is somewhere else, over somewhere else. And I had this major issue that for me, and this is what I explained to my husband early on, and I don't know even to this day if he ever understood it, but it was, you got all of me and I don't feel like I have all of you. Now, there wasn't anything that I could do about it, because the truth of the matter is the baby is here. She is yours, and she was here, and she existed long before I came along. That relationship happened, and it was no longer, by the time I came along. So because it existed, I had to get in a place where I understood that these are just the dynamics of the life that we are now living, and how do we coexist? And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. So when we began to go through the other things in our marriage that we both have, been very transparent in sharing, things that I've been sharing with you guys from the beginning that I told you caused us to end up in divorce court, caused us to have big blow-ups, caused us to have all kinds of family issues, financial issues, problems with, communication, all of those things. This was another added layer to it. And so it didn't take much for things to blow up. But this is what I want to explain to you guys, and this is the whole purpose of doing this live this evening. Because again, you don't have to give in the towel, throw in the towel. You don't have to give in or give up on your marriage because of this. I understand it's difficult, and you may see no other way out, because at the end of the day, the children are here, and those relationships with those other that other man or men, or that other woman or women exist, right? It's not going anywhere. But even if your situation does not change, you can change in your situation. And let me tell you how. And this might sound a little harsh. It may come out of my mouth real easy, but I got sense enough to know that it's difficult, because it was difficult for me. But the first thing that you got to understand, and the first thing you can do to change this whole situation around and bring peace back to your home, stop interfering. This needs to be your movement. You take your hands off of it. You allow your husband to deal with that child or children and that mother or mothers that he produced that child or children with. Take your hands off of it. You stop interfering. You allow them to be the parents of those children, because that's what they are. They're the parents. Now, it may sound harsh. But this is what you guys need to hear in order for you to stop the issues that are going on in your home that cause you guys to be like this right here. You were not there, I hope, when they created that child or children, right? They did it without your help. And guess what? The children were not a mistake. They may not have planned, but it was not a mistake when it comes to God. He intended for those children to be here, and he intended for those children to come through the people that they came through. Your husband and whomever the woman or women are. Stop interfering. That's it. Don't be the type of wife that's nagging all the time and telling your husband, well, you ought to do this, and don't let her do this, and don't let her. That's not your place. I know it's hard, and you may feel like, but he's my husband, and this is our home. You're right. That's your home, the one that you are living in. But if you are the non-custodial parent, and that child or those children come to you part-time, play that position. Be the supportive part-timer that you need to be. It's completely different if that child lives in the home with you. Then, of course, what you say is the end all to be all. But if those children are your non-custodial parents, allow them to deal with it. Now, for me, I used to get frustrated because I felt like my husband wasn't stepping up and doing what he needed to do to make sure that he set things in place, right? But guess what? You know why? Because you're coming into the situation that was already established before you came along. And when you start trying to put your foot down, now what you're doing is causing tension that you don't need to cause. If there was tension before you, then that tension that existed before you, you are not going to come in and rectify it. You're only going to make it worse, because then what you're going to do is you're going to cause that parent, that custodial parent, to despise you and think that you are the reason why now these new things are happening. So what you need to do is back up and allow them to parent their children. Might sound harsh, but that's what it is. Sharette, you say that's it. Regina, you say thank you. Sharette, you say it sounds a little harsh, but it's the reality. It is definitely the reality. Kenya, you say amen to that. Absolutely. And the sooner you learn this and the sooner you put this into practice, you will become a peaceful person, because you are no longer taking on things that don't belong to you. That right there doesn't belong to you. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is, and it might seem hard when you don't have a say-so, right? When you take your hands off and you're not the one who's trying to make the decisions and tell your husband what he ought to do to make the baby mama or men, the baby daddy conform. When you're not the person that's turning the wheel, and you know that your position is this, This one right here might be really difficult for you, but it's very necessary. And this thing right here is support whatever decision they as parents make. Ooh, I know I might not get no likes on this one. I know I might not get y'all to comment or clap or whatever. And that's okay. Because I'm only telling you what God told me to share with you and the things that I wish I had known back then. Okay? That I now know and understand. You support whatever decision that they make for their child or children. Listen, as long as it does not affect your home, as long as if you guys have children that you're raising in your home, as long as whatever decision that they make for that or those children don't affect what's going on inside your home and the rearing of their siblings, your children that you have in the home, support whatever they decide. Even if you don't feel like it's the right decision, even if you feel like there's a better way, support their decision, okay? Plain and simple. The third thing is this, okay? And some of you guys may not have been doing this because somebody has gotten on your nerves and you don't feel like you want to. But pray for that custodial parent. Pray for that baby mama. Pray for the mother of your stepchildren, your child or step. Pray for her. And pray for that child that's being raised by her. And get this. And pray for their relationship with your husband. Pray that it will get better. Pray that they will be able to get along. Pray that they will be agreeable with one another. And you know why you got to do that? Because again, if your motives are pure and it's really for the best interest of the child, then you want them to get along. You don't feel threatened by a good relationship between your husband and the mother of his child or children. Remember now, I talked to you guys earlier in a previous live or something like that where I said to you, you are a wife and you have to know your power. You have to know the position that you hold. You are God told you that for the reason when your husband joined with you that he was to leave and cleave from, leave his mother and father and cleave unto you. That means that the position that even his parents held come down, you step up, and you now in his life, you are second only to God. But you got to walk like that. You got to hold your head up and know who you are. You are the wife. You don't feel threatened by a relationship that he has and if he's getting along with, the mother of his children. You want that. Why? Because if not, if they don't get along, the children or the child is affected. So if you really care about the child, if that's really what you're trying to do is make everybody get along well, then that's what you want. Pray about that. Pray that they have a good relationship. Regina, you said, Lord, I thank you for this beautiful woman of God. She has really helped me get through some trying times. Praise God. Pray to God be the glory, girl. I'm just a vessel. And I just want him to use me because I know where I was. I know the unnecessary things that I went through. And I thank God that he has brought me out on the other side. And that's why I have to tell somebody. Whatever we go through is not for us. If he brings us through it, it's so that we can open up our mouths and testify to somebody else that they too can get through this. So I thank God that what I'm sharing is, you find that you can use it. I want to tell you now, that's the advice that I gave you. But remember, I told you that I really want to talk to you guys about setting some healthy barriers, right? So here are, and again, I'm just sharing with you what I wish somebody would have sat down and talked to me about. Just really explained it to me. Now, I was hard-headed back then too, so I don't know if I would have listened. I don't know if I would have listened. But what I would not have been able to say is that I didn't know. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you is what I wish someone had told me. So here's the thing. For you to have healthy boundaries, okay, the first thing you have to do, and these healthy boundaries are going to help you protect your peace. It's going to help you protect your inner peace and the peace that you need to have in your home, okay? you got to make sure that your financial contributions to that other household, that you have established it and that you stick with it. That you and your spouse, you and your husband stick with it. Okay? Your home should not be suffering as a result of the contributions that have to go over to that household for that child to be cared for. Now listen, a lot of people got issues. Well, you know, my husband, he paid child support and he paid this and he paid that and she don't use it for the child. Guess what? Not your business. She has to answer for that. The same way I told you guys last week that, you know, your husband may not answer to you, but he will always have to answer to God. Okay, let's just say your husband is sending a buku load of money over there to that household to pay and care for his child. As the non-custodial parent, that is what he is doing to ensure that that child is cared for. And she might take that money. She might go on some trips. She might buy some clothes. She might hang out with her girls. She might go to the spa. She might do all of that. But baby, that's none of your business. That's none of your business. Take your hands off of that. You make sure that you support your husband in doing what it is that he is supposed to do. Because if he is the non-custodial parent, she has the responsibility to make sure that that child is fed, that that child is clothed, that that child has a roof over their head, and it costs a whole lot more than sometimes what the court actually requires for a man to pay in child support. Honestly, unless he this big, you know, millionaire, and some of these women getting these huge checks and they living way higher than they should even be living. But we're talking about a normal situation. It takes a lot to raise a child well. Okay? And so you just make sure that you're supportive of your husband doing what he needs to do to ensure that he takes care of his responsibilities. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, you would want to make sure that the man that you have a child from that has gone on with his life, that he is still supporting the children that he has produced with you. So make sure that you think about that when it comes to him having to support a child in another home with another woman. Trina say that. Yeah, I have to say that. Okay, so the financial piece, that's going to help a lot with you protecting your peace, and you're doing it by setting healthy boundaries. So that's one of the main boundaries that you have to make sure is set. You set that. You know what it is, and you stick with it. No back and forth. Because see, one minute you're paying, the next minute you're not paying. Guess what? Now you got more friction, because that woman, she gonna have a problem with you not sending that money over there. So now here we go. So you make sure whatever is set, that's what you stick with. The other thing is you want to make sure that you establish the visitation. Set it and pray that your husband and that woman or women, that they stick with it, that they work it out, that whatever the visitation arrangements are for him to have his time with his daughter, his son, or whatever, you know, whether it's one household or whether he's got, you know, more than one, you know, mother that he has to deal with, whatever the visitation is that has been set, you pray that they stick with it and that they're able to work it out. And if you're going to contribute anything to that, the only thing that you need to contribute is if he has children in different households from different women, the only thing you want to offer is advice to your husband to make sure that he tries to get all of his children on the same weekend or the same week or however it works out. Because again, it is about the children. And you want those children to know and have a relationship with their siblings. You don't want a child over here feeling like, well, my daddy, he always spent time with this one, or he spent time with that one, or they got this one, or they never, you know, children didn't ask to come. So you get them all, and you love on them all, and you try hard as you might to love them like they came from you, because they are innocent. Now, when I say they are innocent, I do understand that there are children who will take on the personality of the one that is raising them. But remember, the children are basically a product of their environment, and they are only doing and mimicking and relaying what they are taught. Okay? But you love them anyway. You love them anyway. You try not to get in your feelings. Though I know it may cause some issues, you got feelings, and I get it. It might be really, really hard to provide for, to care for, and to love on a child that seems to be combative based on whatever it is that they have been getting, what they've been fed, what they've been told, however they are feeling. But you got to think back. You were once a child with feelings too. And I don't know if you came from a household where you had the same mother and father, but if you did not, there may have been some thoughts that you were like, okay, I haven't gotten the love from a father, though I had the love from my mother. Or I was raised by my dad, but I really wish that I had had my mother's influence. Well, it's the same with the children that your spouse has with somebody else. Just love on them as much as you possibly can. And if it gets to the point where those children are being disrespectful to you, again, because guess who should be handling that? Your husband. The one who produced the child or the children with someone else. That spouse should be stepping up and saying, listen, ain't gonna be no disrespect in here. You're not gonna be disrespecting her, but it would be foolish for you to be fighting back and forth with a child, now I'm not saying let any child come in your house and run over you, but what I am saying is a conversation needs to be had to where your husband should be making sure that he sets the criteria and the parameters to make sure that there's no issues with anybody coming into your home disrespecting either of you. Okay. And the last piece is, don't worry about talk. What do I mean by that? This is what I'm saying. You can't do anything at all about whatever that child's parent, that child's custodial parent, that child's mother or what have you. You can't do anything about what it is that they are feeding to that child. Whatever they are saying about you to your husband, to other family members and friends, and painting a picture of what they feel like you are. You can't do anything about whatever it is that they've told the child about you that now seems to be turning the child against you. You can't do anything about that. That's not your battle. This is what I was telling you, you got to get in your word, and you got to know what it is that you have power of authority over, and those things that you do have the authority or the power to change, then you can, do something about that. But this one you can't do anything about because it's not your battle. God is your vindicator. So if you know that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing and you loving the kids and you're not doing anything wrong, then allow God to deal with that. Because sometimes we fight battles that don't belong to us. And then when we fight battles that don't belong to us, that means we're getting in God's way and we're only sabotaging the outcome. So that's, the last part of what I have to say of the healthy barriers that you need to set in place in order to protect your peace. And I promise you, it will allow you to feel a lot better about the situation. It'll bring more peace into your home, into your situation. It will stop any kind of distance that has been created between you and your husband because of the fact that he's trying to deal with making sure that he's still in the life of his child or children from an outside relationship and still wanting to satisfy you. Take the pressure off of him from this side. That's what makes you a wife. You can't just be a cute wife wearing a ring and not really know the position you hold and how you're supposed to walk and what it is that you are supposed to be doing. You don't have to fuss. You don't have to murmur. You don't have to complain. You be his support. Okay? That's all you need to do. Because ultimately, you want to make sure that the children benefit from it all. It shouldn't be any kind of selfishness or involved in the whole situation. When you don't hear me, and this is what I'm saying, and this is how I feel like it ought to be done. It ain't about you. It's about the children. The reason that they have any kind of relationship is because they have children together. So allow them to parent, you support, and you love on those children. And I'm going to give you a prime example of what I mean. Because if the children are what it is that you are interested in ensuring that you want them to turn out the best, then here's the thing. Let me tell you about my daughter. My daughter is 19 years old now, and her mother has done a phenomenal job as a single mother raising her. She graduated from high school last year with honors. She then went into college on a partial scholarship. And after her first term, she has made the dean's list. And guess what? My husband is no longer financially obligated by law to pay and send money and do things like that. But because she is doing what she is supposed to be doing, he makes sure that he supports her financially with the things that she needs as best he can. And guess what? There is no lack in our home. Our children are not suffering or going without. They are clothed. They have shelter. They eat very well. And we are all doing well. And guess what? I didn't have to have my mouth, my hands, my opinion, my attitude. I didn't have to have all of that in the mix. When I caught a revelation and caught an understanding of what I am telling you, I was able to create peace in my home. It transformed the way that things were between my husband and I, and it ultimately made my marriage better. And that's what I want for you guys. That's my whole purpose for doing this. Do not feel like you got to throw in the towel. Don't feel like you got to run if you can't have your way. Your posture should simply be this. Just stop trying to fight a battle that doesn't belong to you. Support and get on your knees and pray. Pray for the custodial parent. Pray for your spouse. And pray for those children. That's what you need to do. And just trust and believe that it's all going to turn out for the good of everybody involved, because you're doing it the way that God wants you to do it and not the way that you want to do it. Hey, Mother Linda, how you doing? Okay, so guys, that's it. That's pretty much what I have. If you guys have any questions, now would be the time for you to ask the questions. If not, then I am going to get off. I just wanted to give you what God gave me. I pray that it has blessed you. Again, I'm sharing with you guys what I wish someone had sat down and thoroughly just talked to me about. And maybe had I known the peace that it would have given, then I would have done it a whole lot sooner. Okay. But I implemented it. And when I implemented it, it made things a whole lot better for me. It's still a work in progress in terms of, wanting to make sure that we spend family time together. But hey, God has done all the other things. He's going to do that as well. So I just want to encourage you guys, make sure that you don't have any unnecessary fighting amongst yourselves in your home because of something that's going on somewhere else. Wives, you got to know who you are, know your strength. You can't just, like I was saying earlier, be a cute wife and you look real good, but you're not really operating like a powerful warrior wife should. Okay. Being a wife, that's a great position to have, but the Holy Ghost batteries are not included. You're going to have to get in your word to learn how to operate with that. Okay. Study, get close to God, and he will show you. Like I said, there are specific things that I implemented, and I came up with this blueprint, and everything that I put in effect, I promise you, I'm on the other side of this, seeing how wonderful it can be if you just give it to God and allow him to do it. He can fix it. You just stop trying to fight battles that don't belong to you. All right, guys, I'll talk with you later. God bless you.